Jai Hind everyone. Today I, Afreen Almas, is here to have a discussion on the topic of the Act, which is very important, that is Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. Now when we look at this very important act, today in this video I will only cover the aspect of the definition of human rights and further the main body which has been framed under this act, that is National Human Rights Commission. Before starting, let's look at why we came up with this act. Let me tell you that India is a party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights as well as to the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights that was adopted way back in 1966. India became party to it, and the human rights which were embodied in these aforesaid covenants were substantially protected by our Indian Constitution. Therefore, we made efforts. There was wide-ranging discussions were held on the subject at various fora, such as there was Chief Ministers' conferences on human rights, seminars organized in various parts of the country, meetings with leaders of various political parties took place. Now, taking all these things into the discussions and taking everything into consideration, ultimately there was Human Rights Commission Bill 1993, which was introduced in the Lok Sabha in May 1993. The bill was referred by the Speaker to the Standing Committee of Parliament on Home Affairs, and in the view of the urgency of the matter, the Protection of Human Rights Ordinance was passed in the year 1993 by the President on 28 September 1993. After incorporating certain amendments and having regard to the discussions of the said committee. Now, there was initially an ordinance on the topic of protection of human rights. Later on, soon after, there was an act that we see today, that is Protection of Human Rights Act, that was passed. Now let's look at what are the major objectives of the act. If you see and analyze the very initial points that is discussed under the preamble of the act, that is, this act is there to provide for the constitution of National Human Rights Commission, State Human Rights Commission and human rights courts. These three organs, which is a statutory body and a sort of court, was stopped to be established under the Act for better protection of human rights and for matters connected therewith. So, ultimate objective of the Act is protection of human rights through NHRC, SHRC and Human Rights Court. Further, if we look at the provisions of the Act, there are total 43 sections under the Act, and in the initial stage, which talks about the short title, extent and commencement, this Act extends to whole of India. Now let's look at the section 2. Section 2, which comprises of one of the most important definition, that is of human right. Before getting into the Act and before talking about a body, let's understand what does human right means under the purview of the Act. If you see section 2 clause D, it says human right means right relating to life, liberty, equality and dignity of an individual. That is guaranteed by the Constitution or embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by courts in India. Now, to understand this definition, let's bifurcate the definition. Human right has been considered to be with four perspectives that is mentioned under the Act. It only talks about right of life, right of liberty, right of equality and right of dignity. These four rights have been considered as human rights, or I must say the rights relating to these four kind of rights any right relating to these four kind of rights are considered as human rights. Another point to be noted under the definition, that these kind of four rights should be there embodied either in the constitution or in the two covenants which are made at international level. So it means incorporation of these four kind of right has to be there in either of these two important documents, either constitution of our country, or they have to have a place in the covenants which is there at international level. It means some right which is not in either of these places cannot be considered as human right under the Act. Now I move to the last very important aspect under the definition, that is enforceability of these rights by the courts in India. So there is another point, that these kind of four rights, if find place in either in the constitution or covenant, should also be enforceable by our Indian courts. If they are not enforceable in our Indian court, undoubtedly, no matter they are there in the constitution or the covenant, they can't be considered as human rights. It means, though I am saying that something which is there in the constitution is undoubtedly enforceable in India, but the question here is related to covenant. If any of these four rights are incorporated in the covenant, and if the covenant has not been, covenant is not, our Indian courts are not bound by the international covenant. We have to implement the covenants at our national level through national laws. So no matter, I have initially also told you one thing, that India has acceded to these covenants. It means India is interested, rather India wants to implement these covenants. So these are the perspective that you should look into the definition to really understand what does human right means. Another question I would like to put forward before the students, that do we consider human rights limited to only these kind of four rights which are mentioned under the Act? It means we are somewhere trying to give a narrower definition to the term which is so widely meant, and it is for the protection of human rights. So we have somewhere made a narrow definition under the Act which has more wider version in execution. Now this is one thing that I wanted to discuss. After this, I would like to discuss section 3 that starts talking about National Human Rights Commission. Chapter 2 of NHRC discuss about National Human Rights Commission. This chapter has section 3 till section 11 made a complete discussion about this important body. Now let's start looking at section 3. Now when you look at section 3, it talks about Constitution of National Human Rights Commission. National Human Rights Commission, the central government shall constitute a body to be known as National Human Rights Commission to exercise the powers that has been conferred upon it by the Act. Now, it means the duty of framing or to constitute or to establish this body is on central government. And this body will it will consist of the following members, that is, a chairperson who has been a Chief Justice of India or a judge of a Supreme Court. Now here I have made the point in bold partially. The reason is, actually there are certain very important amendments made in the year 2019 that I wanted to highlight it before the student. So this initially, before this 2019 amendment in the Act, it was only the retired Chief Justice of India who could become a chairperson. But after 2019 amendment, this chairperson position has been made open to not only to the retired Chief Justice of India, but also to the other retired judges of Supreme Court. This is the change that has been made in the year 2019. Now let's look at who are the members, who can become a members. So firstly, the member is a person, one member who is or has been a judge of a Supreme Court. It means the serving or the retired judge of a Supreme Court can be one of the member. Another member under section 3 is one member who is or has been a Chief Justice of High Court, any High Court. So a Chief Justice who is serving or either a retired Chief Justice of High Court can also become a member. Further, it says 3 members out of which at least one shall be a woman to be appointed from amongst the person having knowledge of or practical experience in matters relating to human rights. This is also, I have highlighted, reason as 2019 amendment. Earlier, before 2019 amendment, it was 2 members who becomes the member of NHRC. But now they have made, after 2019, they have put that there are going to be 3 members who have experience or practical knowledge in relation to human rights. And mandatorily after 2019, one of these 3 members has to be a woman. It means we are trying to have a woman representation in the panel of the member of NHRC after 2019 amendment, which was not a mandatory provision under the Act before. So now if we look at the composition under section 3, it comes to be 1 chairperson and plus 5 other members. Before 2019, it was 1 chairperson and plus 4 members. But now it is 1 plus 5. But this is not all. There are more people under the membership of NHRC. If you see clause 3 under section 3, there are certain people from very important statutory bodies, or I must say very important national commissions, whose chairpersons automatically become members of NHRC. Clause 3 says the chairperson of National Commission for Backward Class, National Commission for Minorities, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, National Commission for Scheduled Caste, National Commission for Scheduled Tribe, National Commission for Women, and ultimately the Chief Commissioner of Persons with Disabilities. These people will automatically become a member of NHRC for the purpose of certain functions which are mentioned from section 12 clause B to section 12 clause J. Thereby we can conclude that there are 7 other members who are becoming the deemed members of NHRC just for the reason they are holding the position of chairmanship or chairpersonship under the different important commissions. It means, I must say, that the representation of the child right, representation of disabled persons, representation of women, minorities, SC, ST and OBC is also reflected under the NHRC. But point of notice is to see that these deemed members will only be considered as members for certain functions, not for all functions. Those certain functions are incorporated in section 12B to section 12J. One more point that you should notice under clause 3 is that before 2019 there were few commissions that were there. After 2019 there are more representation of other commissions. After 2019 the Backward Class Commission, the Child Right Commission and the Disabled Persons, the Chief Commissioner for Disabled Persons has been added under the clause 3 of section 3. It means earlier we were having representation of only minorities, SC, ST and women. Now we have more representation of weaker section of society, that is backward class, that is the differently able people, and that is the children. I hope this point must have been clear to you now. After this, if you see clause 4 of section 3, 1 chairperson plus 5 members plus 7 deemed members are there in NHRC. But not only this, there is Secretary General also. If you see clause 4, Secretary General, who shall be the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission and shall, subject to the control of chairperson, exercise all administrative and financial powers except judicial function and power to make regulations. It means Secretary General of NHRC is a CEO of NHRC. He will look all administrative and financial function of the Commission. And this is to be done under the control of chairperson of NHRC. It means the overall control will be of chairperson of NHRC, and under his control the Secretary SG, the Secretary General of NHRC, will work for administrative and financial matters. Further, if you see clause 5 of section 3, it says that the commission will be established at Delhi, and with the previous approval of central government it may have more offices throughout the country. So this is all about section 3. So please notice the composition of NHRC is 1 plus 5 plus 7 deemed members. Further, now let's move to section 4. Section 4 is relating to appointment of chairperson and other members. This is also a very important point, without which you won't understand the how this NHRC is framed, how it is constituted. It talks about that a chairperson and member shall be appointed by the president by warrant under his hand and seal. Now it means the duty is imposed on central government to make this body, but it is the president who will ultimately do it. It's every time, because once the NHRC is established under the supervision of under the duty of central government, but every time when there is a composition of NHRC is being framed, it will be finally made after the seal and signature of the president. It means the selecting or I must say the appointment would be done by president. This is point to be noted. This is also to be noted that every appointment by the president shall be made after obtaining the recommendation of a committee, and that committee will consist of a prime minister. Now I am telling you, a body, a committee which will send the name to the president, and finally the president would shortlist the people for NHRC. Now let's look at the committee's formation. In the committee there will be the prime minister, who will be the chairperson. There will be speaker of the House of People, that is speaker of the Lok Sabha. He will be a member. Further, there is minister in charge of Ministry of Home Affairs in the Government of India. It means Home Minister will be a member. Further, leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, they will be also a member. Not only this, the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha will also be considered as member. So if you see this committee, it will have chairperson, plus it will have a chairperson who will be a prime minister, plus it will be having a home minister, a leader of opposition in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, speaker of Lok Sabha, deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha. These people will be a part of committee, and this committee will shortlist people from the category which I just told you in section 3, and they will send certain names, and the names will be finally put under, will be sent to the president, and finally the president would give his last seal that who will be the person who will be chairperson and member under NHRC. So this is about clause 4. But one more thing is there to be noticed under section 4. That is, if you are naming somebody who is a sitting judge of High Court or who is a sitting judge of a Supreme Court, then you can't do it without the concurrence and without the consultation of the Chief Justice of India. It means that the Act has put an obligation on the committee that you please recommend the name of people who are serving in the capacity of a judge of a Supreme Court, who is serving as a Chief Justice of any High Court. If you are recommending their name, it should be in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. This is a mandatory requirement under the Act. Further, section 4 clause 2 says that no appointment of chairperson or a member shall be invalidated merely by reason of any vacancy of any member in the committee referred in the formation of the committee. It would reflect that if somebody would say that a person who is a leader of opposition in Lok Sabha is missing, the seat is vacant currently, and it is currently missing. If I tell you the current position, if we go for formation of NHRC now, presently, then the person who is holding a position of leader of opposition in Lok Sabha is right now nobody is there. So if somebody says that since the composition of committee is itself incomplete, how come the name shortlisted by them be considered? This point can't be raised by anybody. Just for the reason of vacancy in the committee or you can't say that the appointments of the people in NHRC are invalid. So this is also a point to be noted. So this is all about section 3 and section 4. Thereby we understand, if I conclude only these two sections, we understand that the duty of framing the NHRC is on central government. The person who is appointing the NHRC chairperson and member is president. The names are being shortlisted by a committee which has Prime Minister and other people as members. Prime Minister as chairperson and other members as other people as members. And finally, then you get the NHRC composition. So I hope this point must have been clear. After this, if you see section 5, it talks about resignation and removal of this chairperson and member of NHRC. Now let's look at section 5, which talks about resignation and removal of chairperson and member of NHRC. Now if a chairperson or any member wants to resign, then they can do it by sending a writing notice in written to the President of India. How can a member or a chairperson be removed? There is clause 2 under section 5, and it says the chairperson or a member shall only be removed from their office by the President. And they could be removed only on 2 grounds, that is proved misbehavior and incapacity. And this removal can't go arbitrarily. There is a process also mentioned under clause 2, that is, after a Supreme Court on reference being made to the Supreme Court by the President has conducted an inquiry in accordance with the procedures that are prescribed for the Supreme Court and report that chairperson or a member was to be removed on the grounds of either the proved misbehavior or incapacity. So I must say that the President can remove chairperson and member, but only after an inquiry which is conducted by the Supreme Court. and the Supreme Court will finally send a report to the President of our country, and then President would decide that yes, this people can be removed. If you see further, there are more other grounds of removal, and those grounds are 5 in nature. You can have a look to clause 3 and understand them better. One of them, if I would discuss, if somebody has infirmity of mind or body, obviously they can't serve as a member or chairperson of NHRC. If somebody has been convicted and sentenced to imprisonment for the reason of moral turpitude, which a president feels that it is a crime which constitute moral turpitude, and he has been convicted of that offence, obviously he can't continue as a member or chairperson. So there are other more grounds. You can have a look to clause 3 in that reference of section 5. Let's look at section 6. For what time period a chairperson and member will serve in NHRC? There is a change after 2019. Earlier this time period was 5 years. But after 2019 amendment in section 6, the term of office of chairperson and a member has been reduced to 3 years. So I must say, a person who is appointed as a chairperson can hold office only for 3 years from the date he enters his office or until he attains the age of 70 years, whichever is earlier. There is another question. Can we reappoint a chairperson? Yes, the chairperson is eligible for reappointment. If you see the duration of members, as I have already told you, the duration of members is also 3 years, the day he enters upon his office. And is a member eligible for reappointment? Yes, member is also eligible for reappointment under section 6. Now, chairperson, there is an important point that is mentioned under section 6. That once a person has held the position of chairperson or a member of NHRC, he will be not eligible for any kind of employment under the Government of India or Government of any state. It means once you have served as chairperson, once you have served as a member of NHRC, you can't hold a position in other government office after ceasing to be such chairperson and member. So this is also, you can say, a restriction which has been imposed on the chairperson and member of NHRC. Let's look at section 7. That member will act like a chairperson under certain circumstances. You can think of, suppose if some chairperson dies, obviously there is a requirement. You can't immediately go for looking for a chairperson or some new chairperson altogether. So for that purpose, to fill that gap, if a chairperson dies, then you will ask, it is the president who will by notification ask any member to serve as a chairperson till a new chairperson is appointed. If the chairperson resigns, the same condition applies. Again, the president would pass a notification and ask one of the members to serve as the chairperson for that gap period when there is a resignation by the current chairperson. If for otherwise also, the president can use this power. There is another condition. Suppose the chairperson is absent or for any reason he cannot serve as a chairperson, then in that case also the president has a power that he may ask by notification any member to work as a chairperson till the current chairperson resumes his office. So I hope section 7 must have been clear to you. Section 8. Section 8 talks about terms and condition of service of members. So it is about the salaries and allowances of the members and chairperson. It will be as may be prescribed. So for that purpose, obviously the government will make rules that what will be the salary and allowances of the chairperson. So section 8 talks about that. One more thing is there, that you can't go for changing these rules of salary and allowances which is disadvantageous to any person after his appointment. Means suppose I appoint a chairperson today and I say according to the rules the salary has been reduced of a chairperson. Probably if I say on 15 November 2021, if the person is appointed as a chairperson, and if on 20th November 2021 the rules are changed which has reduced the salary of chairperson, obviously this reduced salary won't be applied to a person who has been appointed on 15th November. You will apply that new rule on the new person who will be appointed after 20th November. So this is what clause section 8 wants to say. Section 9. Section 9 says that vacancies in the commission or any kind of other, defect in the constitution of the commission won't invalidate its action, its proceedings. So you can't say that chairperson does not have women right now as a member in it. So hence we won't consider this action of NHRC. One cannot take that plea. So just for the reason of vacancy, just for the reason of defect in the constitution of the NHRC, you can't say that this action of NHRC is invalid or this proceedings of NHRC is invalid. This is what section 9 wants to say. Further, section 10, procedures to be regulated by commission. Obviously, when there is a body which is being framed, it wants to have procedure for its functions and working. So the commission can have its own time and place to be decided by the chairperson as he thinks fit. Further, the acts and rules subject to this act and subject to the rules that are made under this act, the commission, that is NHRC, has a power to lay down regulation for its own procedures. The commission can make its own procedure. अपने खुद के procedure commission बना सकता है, लेकिन ध्यान रखें NHRC जो ये 1993 के एक्ट का और जो रूल्स इस 1993 के एक्ट के तहत बनते हैं उनका ध्यान रखते हुए अपने खुद के procedure commission रख सकता है. Further, all orders, section 10 के अंदर last clause 3 में ये लिखा है, all orders and decision of NHRC will be authenticated by Secretary General. आपको याद होगा सेक्शन 3 में I've told you about Secretary General कि Secretary General का सारा administrative और financial function देखने का काम है. But here you also notice that section 10 clause 3 says that all the decisions, all the orders of NHRC will be authenticated by the Secretary General or any other officer that is duly authorized by the chairperson of the commission. It can be other person also. पता चला SG is absent. So the commission, the chairperson can ask some other officer of the commission to authenticate the orders of NHRC. This is also possible. Last provision under this chapter 2 is section 11, officers and other staffs of the commission. Undoubtedly, when you are making a body, so it wants to have its people, it wants to have its office and officers. तो वो चाहिए होता है. तो यहाँ पर अब NHRC बनाया था, NHRC को उसके कामों के लिए स्टाफ भी चाहिए होगा, ऑफिसर्स भी चाहिए होंगे. तो सेक्शन 11 talks about that point, and the central government shall make available to the commission the officers of different ranks and the other staff which will be provided by the central government to the NHRC. Again, you should recall section 3. I told you who established this body NHRC is the central government. Who will provide the officer and other staff to the NHRC? It is the central government. For further, more better understanding, किस level का officer central government को NHRC को देना, you can have a look to section 11 for more better understanding of that point. That's all for today. Thank you so much. I would come up with another point that is very important, that is State Human Rights Commission in next video. Thank you so much.